Christianity is not just a religion, but a relationship. And one of the most important things you should understand as a Christian is that your identity is rooted not in your past, your mistakes, or what people say about you, but in who God says you are. You are chosen, loved, forgiven, and redeemed. And this identity doesn't change based on your performance because it is secured by grace, not earned by works. You must also understand that salvation is a gift, not a reward. It cannot be bought, achieved, or deserved, but only received through faith. As you walk in your journey, you will realize that faith is not just believing when things are easy, but trusting God even when everything feels uncertain. Because faith grows strongest in seasons of waiting and difficulty. You should know that prayer is not a ritual to impress God, but a conversation that builds intimacy with Him. And sometimes the most powerful prayers are not long or eloquent, but simple and sincere. In your daily life, the Word of God is your foundation, your guide, and your source of truth. And without it, your spiritual life will become weak, just as a body cannot survive without food. As a Christian, you must also understand that following God does not mean a life without struggles. In fact, challenges often increase because you are walking against the current of the world. But in those struggles, God is shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and drawing you closer to Him. You should remember that obedience is better than convenience. And sometimes, God will ask you to walk paths that are uncomfortable but necessary for your growth. Forgiveness is another essential truth. You cannot fully experience God's peace if you are holding on to bitterness, because forgiveness is not about saying what happened was okay, but about freeing your heart from the weight of anger. Love is the greatest commandment, and it is not just a feeling but a decision to act with kindness, patience, and humility, even when it is difficult. As you grow, you will learn that humility opens doors that pride keeps shut, and God works most powerfully through those who are willing to surrender their ego. You should also know that comparison is a trap that steals joy and purpose. Your journey is unique, and God's plan for your life cannot be measured against someone else's path. There will be moments when you feel distant from God, but feelings are not always truth. God's presence does not leave you even when you don't feel it. Discipline is important in your walk, because spiritual growth does not happen accidentally. It requires consistent effort in prayer, reading scripture, and living intentionally. You will make mistakes, but failure is not the end. It is an opportunity to learn, grow, and rely more on God's grace. As a Christian, you are called to be a light in the darkness, which means your actions, words, and attitude should reflect Christ, even when no one is watching. Another truth you must hold on to is that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with your expectations. And waiting is often part of the process of preparation. Gratitude transforms your perspective, helping you focus on what God has done rather than what you lack. You should guard your heart carefully, because what you allow into your mind and spirit will shape your thoughts and actions. Community is also important. Are not meant to walk this journey alone, and surrounding yourself with other believers strengthens your faith and keeps you accountable. At times, you will face doubt, but doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is an opportunity to seek deeper understanding and grow stronger in your life. You must remember that your worth is not determined by success, achievements, or approval from others, but by the price that was paid for you. As a Christian, your purpose goes beyond personal happiness. It is about serving God and impacting others with love and truth. There will be seasons of silence where it feels like God is not speaking, but those seasons often teach you to trust Him more deeply. You should also understand that spiritual warfare is real, and Not every struggle is physical or emotional. Some battles are spiritual, requiring prayer, faith, and reliance on God's strength. Patience is a virtue that will be tested repeatedly, and learning to wait without losing hope is part of spiritual maturity. You should be careful with your words, because they have the power to build up or tear down. And as a Christian, your speech should reflect grace and truth. Generosity is not just about giving money, but about giving your time, love, and compassion to others. You should strive to live with integrity, being the same person in private as you are in public, because true character is revealed when no one is watching. As you continue your journey, you will realize that joy is not dependent on circumstances, but on your relationship with God, and even in difficult times you can experience peace that surpasses understanding. You should never underestimate the power of small acts of obedience, because even the smallest step taken in faith can lead to significant impact over time. Remember that God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and you do not need to be perfect to be used by Him. Faithfulness in small things leads to greater responsibility and blessing. You must also understand that repentance is not about guilt, but about transformation. It is turning away from sin and turning toward God with a sincere heart. As a Christian, you are called to grow continuously, not remain stagnant, and growth often requires stepping out of your comfort zone. You should also be aware that not everyone will understand your faith, and sometimes you may face criticism or rejection, but standing firm in your beliefs is part of your calling. Finally, always remember that God's love for you is unconditional, unchanging, and everlasting, and nothing can separate you from it. No matter where you are in your journey, no matter how far you feel you've fallen, you can always return to Him, because His grace is greater than your mistakes. Your life has purpose, your story matters, and your faith journey is a testimony that can inspire and impact others in ways you may never fully see. As you continue your walk as a Christian, you begin to understand that growth is a lifelong journey, not a one-time event. And every season you go through has a purpose, even the ones that feel confusing or painful. There will be times when God calls you to step out in faith without showing you're the full picture. And in those moments, trust becomes more important than clarity. You should know that God often works behind the scenes in ways you cannot see, arranging situations, opening doors, and protecting you from things you may never even realize. One of the most important truths to hold on to is that delays are not denials. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will, because God's timing is always aligned with His greater plan for your life. You must also learn the importance of surrender, because holding tightly to your own plans can prevent you from receiving what God has prepared for you. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength, because it shows that you trust God more than your own understanding. As a Christian, you will face moments where you have to choose between what is easy and what is right, and choosing righteousness may cost you comfort, relationships, or opportunities, but it will always lead to peace and alignment with God's will. You should also understand that not every open door is from God, and discernment is necessary to recognize what aligns with His purpose and what does not. In your spiritual journey, consistency matters more than intensity. It is better to spend a little time with God every day than to have occasional bursts of passion followed by long periods of distance. You will discover that worship is not just singing songs, but a lifestyle of honoring God in everything you do, from your thoughts to your actions. Your attitude in difficult situations reveals the depth of your faith, and choosing gratitude in hardship is a powerful act of trust. You should also remember that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness, and the areas where you feel inadequate are often the very places where His power will be revealed. As a Christian, you are called to forgive not just once, but repeatedly, because forgiveness is not a one-time decision but a process that may need to be revisited. You should also guard against pride, because it can quietly enter your heart and create distance between you and God. Humility keeps your heart open and teachable, allowing God to continue shaping you. There will be times when you feel like giving up, but perseverance is essential, and pushing through those moments will strengthen your faith in ways comfort never could. Another important truth is that you cannot control everything, and trying to do so will only lead to stress and frustration. Instead, you are called to trust God with what you cannot change and focus on what you can do faithfully. You should also be mindful of the influences in your life, because of the people you surround yourself with can either strengthen your faith or weaken it. Choose relationships that encourage growth, accountability, and truth. You will also learn that obedience does not always lead to immediate results, and sometimes you may feel like your efforts are unnoticed. But God sees every act of faithfulness, no matter how small. Nothing done for Him is ever wasted. As a Christian, you are called to be patient, not only with others, but also with yourself, understanding that transformation takes time. God is not rushing your growth. He is shaping you step by step. There will be seasons where you feel spiritually dry, where prayer feels difficult and reading Scripture feels like a routine rather than a passion. But those seasons do not mean you are failing. They are opportunities to seek God more intentionally and deepen your relationship beyond emotions. You should remember that feelings fluctuate, but God's truth remains constant, and your faith should be rooted in truth, not emotion. You must also understand that being a Christian does not mean you will always get what you want, but it does mean you will always have what you need. God's provision may not look the way you expect, but it is always sufficient. Gratitude in those moments will shift your perspective from lack to abundance. As you grow, you will begin to see that God's no is just as loving as His. Yes, because He sees what you cannot and knows what is best for you. Another truth to embrace is that your past does not define your future, and no mistake is too big for God's grace to cover. Shame may try to hold you back, but God calls you forward into freedom and purpose. You should also recognize that comparison is not only a thief of joy but also a distraction from your calling. When you focus too much on others, you lose sight of what God is doing in your own life. As a Christian, you are called to be bold in your faith, not ashamed or silent, but willing to stand for truth with love and wisdom. This does not mean forcing your beliefs on others, but living in a way that reflects Christ so clearly that others are drawn to Him through you. Your life is a testimony, and even in your struggles, God can use your story to encourage and inspire others. You should also understand the importance of rest, because burnout is real, and even Jesus took time to step away and recharge. Rest is not laziness. It is obedience, acknowledging that you are not meant to carry everything on your own. Trusting God also means knowing when to pause and allow Him to work. As you continue this journey, you will realize that faith requires action. It is not enough to simply believe. You must live out what you believe through your choices, your priorities, and your behavior. Small daily decisions shape your spiritual life more than occasional big moments. Choosing kindness, patience, honesty, and love in everyday situations is what truly reflects your faith. Finally, you should always remember that God is with you in every moment, in your highs and your lows, in your victories and your struggles. You are never alone, even when it feels like it. His presence is constant, His love is unchanging, and His plans for you are good. No matter how long the journey feels or how difficult the path becomes, you can move forward with confidence, knowing that the one who called you is faithful to complete what He started in you. As you keep walking in your faith journey, You begin to realize that spiritual maturity is not measured by how much you know, but by how much you live out what you know. Because knowledge without application can leave your heart unchanged. There will be times when God asks you to let go of things you once held tightly, habits, relationships, or dreams. And in those moments, it may feel like loss, but often it is divine preparation for something greater. You should understand that God is more concerned with your character than your comfort. And while comfort feels good in the moment, character is what sustains you through life's challenges. As a Christian, you will also learn that silence can be sacred, and not every moment needs to be filled with noise. Sometimes God speaks most clearly when you're still. You must also recognize that temptation is a part of life, but it is not stronger than your ability to resist through God's strength. The key is not just avoiding sin, but replacing it with truth, discipline, and a renewed mindset. You should guard your thoughts carefully, because what you think about consistently will eventually shape your actions and your identity. As your mind is renewed, your life will begin to transform in ways that are both visible and deeply internal. Another important truth is that your calling may not always be loud or public. Sometimes it is quiet, faithful service in places where no one else is watching. You don't need a platform to have purpose. God sees what you do in secret, and faithfulness in hidden places matters deeply. You should also understand that not every season is meant for growth in the same way. Some seasons are for planting, some for watering, and others for harvesting, and each one is necessary in its own time. As a Christian, you will face moments where you question your direction, wondering if you are truly on the right path. But those moments are not signs of failure. They are invitations to draw closer to God and seek His guidance more intentionally. You should also remember that God does not waste anything in your life, not your pain, not your struggles, not even your mistakes. Everything can be used for a greater purpose when you place it in His hands. You will learn that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in the middle of them. This kind of peace cannot be explained by circumstances, and it often comes when you choose to trust God, even when things don't make sense. As a Christian, you are called to be different, not for the sake of being different, but because your values, priorities, and identity are rooted in something greater than the world around you. You should also understand that growth often feels uncomfortable, because it requires change, and change challenges what is familiar. But without discomfort, there can be no transformation. God stretches you not to harm you, but to prepare you for what lies ahead. In those moments, it is important to remain patient and trust the process, even when you don't see immediate results. Another truth to hold on to is that your relationship with God is personal, and while others can guide and support you, your faith cannot depend on someone else's relationship with Him. You must build your own connection through prayer, reading, and seeking Him consistently. As you do this, you will begin to recognize His voice more clearly, not necessarily as an audible sound, but as a quiet conviction, a sense of peace, or a gentle nudge in your spirit. You will also realize that distractions are one of the biggest obstacles in your spiritual journey, because they pull your attention away from what truly matters. Not everything that is good is beneficial, and learning to prioritize your time and energy is essential. You should be intentional about what you focus on, because where your attention goes, your life will follow. As a Christian, you are called to serve others, not out of obligation, but out of love. And true service often requires sacrifice. It may not always be convenient or recognized, but it reflects the heart of Christ. You should also understand that leadership in God's kingdom looks different from the world. It is not about power or status, but about humility, service, and putting others before yourself. There will be times when you feel misunderstood or overlooked, especially when you choose to live according to your faith. But those moments are opportunities to grow in confidence and identity. knowing that your worth is not determined by others' opinions. You should also remember that God's approval matters more than human validation, and living for Him brings a deeper sense of fulfillment than seeking recognition from people. You must also learn to celebrate progress, not just perfection, because growth is often gradual and not always immediately visible. Every step forward, no matter how small, is meaningful. As a Christian, you are not called to be perfect, but to be faithful, and faithfulness is shown in the choices you make every day. Another important truth is that gratitude can transform even the hardest seasons, because it shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is present. When you begin to thank God even in difficult moments, your perspective changes, and you start to see His hand at work in ways you may have missed before. You should also understand that boundaries are important, and saying no to certain things can be an act of obedience, not selfishness. Protecting your time, energy, and spiritual health allows you to serve God more effectively. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and learning to discern what aligns with your purpose is key. As you continue growing, you will realize that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Faith often requires stepping into the unknown, trusting that God will guide you even when the path is unclear. In those moments, courage and faith go hand in hand. Finally, always remember that your journey is still unfolding, and you do not need to have everything figured out. God is leading you step by step, shaping you into who you are meant to become. Every experience, every challenge, and every victory is part of a bigger story that He's writing through your life. Stay faithful, stay grounded, and keep moving forward, knowing that the best is still ahead. As you continue deeper into your journey as a Christian, you begin to understand that transformation is not always visible on the outside at first, but it starts within your heart, quietly reshaping your desires, your thoughts, and your priorities. There will be moments when you look back and realize how much you've changed, not because of your own strength, but because God has been working in you all along. You should know that spiritual growth often happens in ways you don't immediately recognize, and sometimes the biggest changes are the ones that take place slowly over time. Patience with yourself is important, because God is not rushing your process. He is developing you intentionally. You must also recognize that your environment plays a significant role in your spiritual life. What you watch, what you listen to, and who you spend time with in all influence your mindset and your walk with God. Being intentional about your environment. It's not about isolating yourself from the world, but about protecting your heart and staying aligned with your purpose. As a Christian, you are called to be in the world, but not of it, meaning you can engage with others while still holding on to your values and identity. There will be times when obedience requires sacrifice, and those sacrifices may not always be understood by others. You might have to walk away from situations that no longer align with your faith, even if they once felt comfortable or familiar. In those moments, trust that God sees your obedience and will honor it in ways you cannot yet see. You should also understand that God's plans are often bigger than your current perspective, and what feels like a setback may actually be a setup for something greater. As your faith grows, you will begin to notice the importance of guarding not just your actions, but also your intentions. It's possible to do the right thing for the wrong reasons, but God looks at the heart. Purity of intention matters, and seeking to honor God in everything you do brings a deeper level of authenticity to your faith. You should also learn to let go of the need for control, because trying to manage every detail of your life can create unnecessary stress. Trusting God means releasing what you cannot control and believing that He is working for your good. Another important truth is that your struggles do not disqualify you from being used by God. In fact, they often become the very testimony that allows you to connect with and help others. Your story, with all its imperfections, has value and purpose. As a Christian, You're not called to hide your weaknesses, but to allow God's strength to shine through them. This creates authenticity. It reminds others that they are not alone in their journey. You will also come to understand that faithfulness is often tested in the ordinary moments of life, not just in the big decisions. How you respond in small, everyday situations matters more than you may think. Choosing patience when you're frustrated, kindness when you're tired, and honesty when it's difficult. These are the moments that shape your character and reflect your faith. There will be seasons when you feel like you're not making progress, when it seems like you are stuck or moving in circles. But even in those times, God is working beneath the surface. Growth is not always linear, and sometimes it involves revisiting lessons you thought you had already learned. This is not failure, it's refinement. You should also understand the importance of aligning your words with your faith. What you speak has power, not in a magical sense, but in the way it influences your mindset and actions. Speaking truth, encouragement, and life over yourself and others creates an atmosphere of hope and faith. Negative and discouraging words, on the other hand, can slowly weaken your perspective. As a Christian, you are called to trust God not only with the big decisions, but also with the small details of your life. Nothing is too insignificant for Him. When you involve God in your daily choices, you begin to develop a deeper awareness of His presence, and your relationship with Him becomes more natural and consistent. Another truth to embrace is that not everyone will walk with you in every season of your life. Some people are meant to be part of your journey for a time, while others will remain longer. Letting go of certain relationships can be difficult, but sometimes it is necessary for your growth. Trust that God will bring the right people into your life at the right time. You will also learn that joy is a choice, not just a reaction to circumstances. Even in difficult seasons, you can choose to focus on God's goodness and remain hopeful. This doesn't mean ignoring your struggles, but it means not allowing them to define your outlook. Joy rooted in faith is deeper and more lasting than happiness based on temporary situations. As you continue growing, you will realize that discipline is a form of love, not punishment, but guidance that helps you stay on the right path. When God corrects you, it is not to condemn you, but to redirect you towards something better. Being open to correction keeps your heart soft and your spirit teachable. You should also understand that your purpose is not something you have to chase endlessly. It unfolds as you walk faithfully with God. Instead of constantly searching for a big, dramatic calling, focus on being faithful where you are, and purpose will reveal itself over time. God often works through simple acts of obedience to accomplish greater things. There will be times when you feel overwhelmed by life's demands, but you must remember that you are not meant to carry everything on your own. Bringing your burdens to God is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of trust. He cares about every detail of your life and invites you to rely on Him. Finally, always remember that your faith journey is not about reaching a destination of perfection, but about growing in relationship with God day by day. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of confusion, but through it all, God remains constant. Stay rooted in Him, continue seeking Him, and trust that He is leading you exactly where you need to be, one step at a time. As you keep moving forward in your Christian journey, you begin to understand that true strength is not found in independence, but in dependence on God, because relying on your own understanding can only take you so far, while trusting Him opens doors you could never reach on your own. There will be moments when life feels uncertain and you don't have clear answers, but in those moments, faith becomes your anchor, holding you steady even when everything around you feels unstable. You should know that God does not require you to have everything figured out. He simply asks you to trust Him one step at a time, and sometimes that step is all you need for the moment. You must also recognize that growth often requires letting go of old versions of yourself. including mindsets, habits, and beliefs that no longer align with who God is calling you to be. This process can feel uncomfortable because it involves change, but it is necessary for transformation. As a Christian, you are constantly being renewed, and this renewal is not just about behavior, but about becoming a new creation from the inside out. There will be times when you feel like your prayers are unanswered, but you should understand that silence does not mean absence. God is always listening, always working, even when you cannot see it. Sometimes the answer is wait, sometimes it is no, and sometimes it is yes. But each response is given out of love and wisdom. Trusting God includes trust in His answers, even when they don't match your expectations. Another important truth is that your journey is not meant to be rushed. In a world that constantly pushes for quick results and instant success, God often works through process and patience. The lessons you learn along the way are just as important as the destination you are moving toward. You should also understand that comparison not only steals joy, but can distort your perception of God's work in your life. When you focus on others, you risk overlooking the unique path God has designed specifically for you. As a Christian, you are called to live with purpose, but purpose is not always something grand or visible. Sometimes it is found in the small, consistent acts of faithfulness that shape your daily life. Being kind, showing patience, offering encouragement, these simple actions reflect God's love more than you may realize. You should never underestimate the impact of living faithfully in the ordinary. You will also learn that fear can be one of the biggest obstacles in your walk with God, because it tries to keep you from stepping into what He has prepared for you. But faith calls you to move forward even when fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to trust God more than your doubts. In those moments, you grow stronger, and your confidence in God deepens. You should also understand the importance of guarding your peace. Not every situation requires your reaction, and not every opinion deserves your attention. Learning to step back, stay calm, and trust God to handle what is beyond your control will protect your heart and your mindset. Peace is something you must actively choose and protect. There will be times when you feel like you are not enough, when doubts about your worth or ability begin to surface, but you must remember that your value is not based on your performance. God's love for you is not conditional, and it does not fluctuate based on your successes or failures. Holding on to this truth will give you confidence and security in your identity. Another truth to embrace is that discipline in your spiritual life is essential. Just as physical growth requires consistent effort, spiritual growth requires regular time with God, intentional choices, and a willingness to stay committed even when you don't feel motivated. Feelings may come and go, but discipline keeps you grounded. As a Christian, you will also come to understand that not every battle is meant to be fought with words or actions. Some battles are won through prayer, patience, and trusting God to work in ways you cannot. Learning when to speak and when to remain silent is a sign of wisdom and maturity. You should also recognize that gratitude has the power to shift your entire perspective. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your heart becomes lighter, and your faith grows stronger. Gratitude does not ignore challenges, but it helps you see beyond them. There will be seasons where you feel like you are waiting for something significant to happen, but in those seasons, God is often preparing you for what is ahead. Waiting is not wasted time, it is a time of growth, refinement, and strengthening. Embracing the waiting season will help you develop patience and trust. As you continue your journey, you will realize that your relationship with God is the most important part of your life. Everything else flows from that connection. When your relationship with Him is strong, it influences your decisions, your relationships, and your overall outlook on life. You should also understand that failure is not the end of your story. Everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is how you respond, turning back to God. As you continue walking in your faith, you will begin to understand that God is not only interested in what you do, but in who you are becoming, because your character is the foundation of everything in your life. There will be moments when you're tempted to focus on outward success, recognition, or approval. But God often works in hidden places, shaping your heart in ways that no one else can see. In those quiet seasons, when it feels like nothing significant is happening, something deeply important is actually taking place within you. You should know that. These hidden seasons are not wasted. They are preparation for what is to come. You must also learn to trust God in the unseen, because faith is not built on what you can see, but on what you believe. There will be times when the path ahead is unclear, when you don't know what the next step looks like. But God calls you to walk forward anyway. Step by step, He reveals just enough to keep you moving, not enough to make you completely comfortable, but enough to build your trust in Him. As a Christian, you will come to realize that obedience is not always easy, but it is always worth it. There may be moments when doing the right thing feels costly, when it requires sacrifice or going against what others expect from you. But those are the moments where your faith becomes real. Obedience aligns your life with God's will, and even when the results are not immediate, they're eternal. You should also understand that distractions can quietly pull you away from your purpose. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. Learning to focus on what truly matters, your relationship with God, your growth and your calling will keep you grounded and intentional. It is easy to get caught up in things that feel urgent, but are not important. So staying spiritually aware is essential. There will be times when you feel like giving up, when the journey feels too long or too difficult. But perseverance is a key part of your walk. Growth does not happen overnight, and breakthroughs often come after seasons of persistence. You should remind yourself that God is not finished with you, even when you feel tired or discouraged. Another important truth is that your life is not just about you. It is about the impact you have on others. As a Christian, you are called to be a light, and your actions, words, and attitude can influence people in ways you may never fully see. Even small acts of kindness, encouragement, and love can leave a lasting mark. You should also recognize the importance of being rooted in truth. In a world filled with different opinions, distractions, and shifting values, God's truth remains constant. Staying connected to His Word helps you stay grounded and protects you from being easily swayed by everything around you. As you grow, you will also learn that humility is essential. Pride can quietly build barriers in your life, but humility keeps your heart open and teachable. It allows you to grow, to learn from others, and to remain connected to God. True strength is found in humility, not in trying to prove yourself. There will be seasons where you are called to step out of your comfort zone, to take risks, and to trust God in ways you never have before. These moments can feel intimidating, but they are also where growth happens the most. Staying comfortable may feel safe, but it often limits what God wants to do in your life. You should also understand that peace is something you must actively protect. Not every situation deserves your energy, and not every battle is yours to fight. Learning to let go, to trust God, and to remain calm in the midst of chaos will strengthen your faith and your mindset. As a Christian, you will come to realize that your words carry weight. Speaking life, encouragement, and truth can uplift others and create an atmosphere of hope. At the same time, negative words can bring discouragement and doubt. Being mindful of what you say is an important part of living out your faith. You will also learn that your relationship with God is not meant to be complicated. It is not about perfection, performance, or trying to earn His love. It is about connection, spending time with Him, being honest in prayer, and seeking Him daily builds a strong and genuine relationship. There will be times when you feel like you're not doing enough, when you compare yourselves to others or question your progress. But you must remember that God is not measuring you by human standards. He sees your heart, your effort, and your faithfulness, and that is what matters. Another truth to embrace is that every season has its purpose. Some seasons are filled with growth and excitement, while others are quiet and reflective. Both are necessary, and both are part of your journey. Learning to embrace each season without rushing through it will bring a deeper sense of peace and understanding. You should also understand that God's plans are often different from your expectations, but they are always better. What you think you want may not always be what you need, and trusting God means believing that His vision for your life is greater than your own. As you continue forward, you will realize that your faith is not just something you believe, it is something you live. It is shown in your choices, your priorities, and your actions every single day. Living out your faith consistently is what makes it real and impactful. Finally, always remember that no matter how far you've come or how far you still have to go, God is with you every step of the way. He is guiding you, strengthening you, and shaping you into who you are meant to be. Your journey is still unfolding. Your story is still being written. And with God by your side, you can move forward with confidence, hope, and unwavering faith. As you continue growing in your walk with God, you begin to understand that faith is not something you turn on and off, depending on your situation, but something that becomes a steady foundation in every part of your life. It is not just for difficult moments or Sunday mornings, but for everyday decisions, thoughts, and actions. You should know that true faith shows itself in consistency, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, and in the choices you make when it would be easier to go the other way. This kind of faith is built over time, through trust, obedience, and a willingness to keep going even when it feels difficult. You must also recognize that God's presence is not limited to certain places or moments. He is with you in your daily routine, in your work, in your conversations, and even in your thoughts. Learning to be aware of His presence transforms ordinary moments into meaningful ones. When you begin to see God in the small details of your life, your perspective shifts, and gratitude naturally follows. There will be times when life feels overwhelming, when responsibilities, challenges, and emotions seem too heavy to carry. But you must remember that you are not meant to carry everything on your own. God invites you to bring your burdens to Him, not just the big ones, but the small ones too. Trust in Him with your worries creates space for peace to enter your heart. As a Christian, you will also come to understand that spiritual growth requires intentional effort. It does not happen automatically. It requires discipline, consistency, and a desire to grow. There will be days when you don't feel motivated, when reading, praying, or seeking God feels like a task rather than a joy. But those are often the most important days to stay consistent. Growth is not built on feelings, but on commitment. You should also understand that not every season will feel the same. Some seasons will be filled with joy and clarity, while others may feel uncertain or challenging. Both are necessary, and both play a role in shaping your faith. Learning to trust God in every season, not just the easy ones, is what strengthens your relationship with Him. Another important truth is that your identity as a Christian is not something you have to prove to others. It is something you live out naturally through your actions, your character, and your attitude. When your heart is aligned with God, your life will reflect that alignment without the need for constant explanation or validation. There will be times when you feel misunderstood or even alone in your faith, especially if those around you do not share the same beliefs or values. In those moments, it is important to remain grounded in who you are and what you believe. You are not alone. God is with you, and He understands you fully. You should also recognize that growth often comes with stretching. God may place you in situations that challenge you, that push you beyond your comfort zone, and that require you to trust Him in new ways. These moments may feel uncomfortable, but they are opportunities for growth and deeper faith. As you continue your journey, you will learn the importance of letting go of perfection, Trying to be perfect can lead to frustration and discouragement. But God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for a willing heart. He works through your imperfections, not in spite of them. Another truth to hold on to is that your words and your thoughts are connected. What you think influences what you say, and what you say influences how you live. Filling your mind with truth, hope, and positivity will naturally shape your speech and your actions in a meaningful way. You should also understand that kindness is a powerful expression of your faith. It may seem simple, but it has the ability to impact others deeply. A kind word, a patient response, or a small act of care can make a significant difference in someone's life. There will be times when you feel like you're waiting for something, an answer, a breakthrough, or a change. But waiting is not a passive state. It is an active time of trusting, growing, and preparing. God is always working, even when you cannot see it. As a Christian, you are called to live with purpose. But purpose is not always something dramatic or obvious. It is often found in the way you live each day, in the choices you make, and in the way you treat others. Living with intention gives your life meaning beyond circumstances. You should also remember that your journey is unique. God is working in your life in a way that is different from anyone else's. Comparing your progress or your path to others will only distract you from what God is doing in you. Another important truth is that trust is built over time. The more you walk with God, the more you begin to see His faithfulness, and that builds confidence in Him. Looking back at what He has already done can strengthen your faith for what lies ahead. As you continue forward, you will realize that your relationship with God is not about rules, but about connection. Rules may guide behavior, but relationship transforms the heart. When your heart is aligned with God, your actions will naturally follow. As you continue your journey of faith, you begin to realize that God's work in your life is often deeper than what you can see on the surface. While you may look for visible changes or clear signs, God is often working within your heart, reshaping your desires, refining your thoughts, and aligning your spirit with His will. These inner changes may go unnoticed at first, but over time, they begin to reflect in your actions, your decisions, and the way you respond to life. You should understand that true transformation starts from within, and when your heart changes, everything else begins to follow. You must also learn to trust God even when life feels uncertain. There will be moments when things don't go as planned, when doors close unexpectedly, or when you face challenges you didn't anticipate. In those moments, it is easy to feel discouraged. But you must remember that God sees the bigger picture. What feels like a setback may actually be protection, and what feels like a delay may be preparation for something greater. As a Christian, you will come to understand that your faith is strengthened through testing. Just as gold is refined by fire, your faith grows stronger through challenges and difficulties. These moments are not meant to break you, but to build you. They teach you resilience, patience, and a deeper trust in God. Without these seasons, your faith would remain shallow, but through them, it becomes strong and unshakable. You should also recognize the importance of being intentional with your time. Life can become busy and distracting, and it is easy to let your spiritual life take a back seat. But making time for God should be a priority, not an afterthought. Even small moments spent in prayer or reflection can have a powerful impact on your day and your mindset. There will be times when you feel like you're not hearing from God, when your prayers seem to go unanswered, or when you feel distant from Him. In those moments, it is important to remain faithful. Continue seeking Him, even when it feels difficult. Sometimes, God is teaching you to trust Him beyond what you feel. Another truth to hold on to is that your journey is not meant to be perfect. You will make mistakes. You will have moments of weakness, and you may even feel like you're going backward at times. But none of this disqualifies you. God's grace covers your imperfections, and every step you take toward Him matters. As you grow, you will also begin to understand the importance of guarding your heart. What you allow into your mind through media, conversations, or influences affects your thoughts and your spirit. Being mindful of what you consume helps you stay focused and aligned with your faith. You should also understand that humility is a key part of spiritual growth. Being willing to admit when you are wrong, to learn from others, and to remain teachable keeps your heart open to God's guidance. Pride can block growth, but humility allows it to flourish. There will be moments when you feel like your efforts are not making a difference, when your prayers, your kindness, or your faithfulness seem unnoticed. But you must remember that God sees everything. Nothing you do in faith is ever wasted, even if you don't see the results immediately. As a Christian, you are called to be patient, not only with others, but also with yourself. Growth takes time, and comparing your progress to others can lead to unnecessary discouragement. Focus on your own journey, and trust that God is working in you at the right pace. You should also recognize that your perspective shapes your experience. Choosing to focus on God's goodness, even in difficult situations, can change the way you see your circumstances. This does not mean ignoring challenges, but it means viewing them through the lens of faith rather than fear. Another important truth is that your purpose is not limited to one big moment or achievement. It is lived out daily, through your actions, your choices, and the way you interact with others. Every day is an opportunity to reflect God's love and make a difference. There will be times when you feel like stepping back or giving up, especially when the journey feels long or difficult. In those moments, remind yourself why you started. Remember the faith that carried you this far, and trust that God will continue to guide you forward. As you continue walking with God, you will begin to notice His faithfulness more clearly. Looking back, you will see how He has guided you, protected you, and provided for you in ways you may not have realized at the time. These reminders will strengthen your faith and give you confidence for the future. You should also understand that peace is something you can carry with you, even in difficult circumstances. It is not dependent on everything going right, but on trusting that God is in control. This kind of peace brings stability and strength, even in the midst of uncertainty. Finally, always remember that your journey is still unfolding. You are still growing, still learning, and still becoming who God created you to be. There's no need to rush or compare yourself to others. Stay focused, stay faithful, and keep moving forward with trust and confidence. God is with you in every step, and He will continue to lead you, guide you, and shape you into something beautiful. And now, as you come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect, not just on the words you've heard, but on the quiet work God has been doing in your heart all along. Because this was never just about listening. It was about transformation. Every truth, every reminder, every moment of reflection was meant to draw you closer to Him, to remind you that you are not walking this path alone. No matter where you are right now, whether you feel strong in your faith or struggling to hold on, know this: God is still with you. He has never left. He is not distant, and He is not finished with your story. The same God who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it, step by step, moment by moment. You may not have all the answers. You may still have questions, doubts, or uncertainties about what lies ahead. But your journey was never meant to be based on having everything figured out. It was meant to be built on trust. Trusting that even when you cannot see the way, God is making a way. Trusting that even in silence, He is speaking. Trusting that even in waiting, He is working. Remember, your life has purpose far beyond what you can imagine. Every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've cried, every step of faith you've taken, none of it is wasted. God sees it all, and He is weaving it into something beautiful. Even the broken pieces of your life are being shaped into a testimony of grace, love, and redemption. So as you move forward from here, don't just carry these words, live them. Let your faith be more than something you hear. Let it be something you walk in daily. Choose love when it's hard. Choose forgiveness when it's painful. Choose faith when it feels uncertain. Because in those choices, you reflect the heart of God. And when life becomes overwhelming, when the road feels long, or when your strength feels small, remember this simple truth. You are held by a God whose love never fails, whose mercy never runs out, and whose promises never break. Deep moment, not to rush away from this, not to move on too quickly, but to truly sit with what has been placed on your heart. Because this is not just an ending, it is a continuation. It is the beginning of a deeper awareness, a stronger faith, and a more intentional walk with God. Everything you've heard, everything you've reflected on, is not meant to stay in words. It is meant to become a part of your life, your thoughts, your choices, and your identity. There will be days ahead where you feel strong, where your faith feels alive and steady, where everything seems clear and hopeful. But there will also be days where things feel uncertain, where your heart feels heavy, and where your faith may feel quiet. In both moments, whether strong or struggling, God remains the same. He does not change with your feelings. He does not step back when you feel distant. He stays constant, steady, and present through it all. As you move forward, remember that you are not expected to be perfect. You're not expected to have all the answers. You are not expected to walk this journey without ever stumbling. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. What matters is your willingness to keep coming back, to keep trusting, to keep choosing faith even when it feels difficult. There's something powerful about continuing, even when you feel unsure. There's something beautiful about trusting God, even when you don't fully understand what He's doing. Because faith is not about certainty. It is about trust. It is about believing that even when you cannot see the full picture, God is still painting something meaningful with your life. You should hold on to the truth that your life has purpose, far beyond what you can currently see. Even the moments that feel small, unnoticed, or ordinary are part of something greater. Every act of kindness, every quiet prayer, every step of obedience is building something eternal. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is overlooked. God sees it all, and He's working through it all. And when you feel tired, because there will be moments of weariness, remember that it is okay to pause. It is okay to rest. Rest is not weakness. It is part of your journey. Even in rest, God is working. Even in stillness, He is present. You do not have to carry everything on your own. There will be moments when you look back and realize how far you've come. Moments when you see the growth, the change, the strength that has developed within you. And in those moments, you will understand that it was never just your effort. It was God guiding you, shaping you, and carrying you even when you didn't realize it. And then there will be moments where you look ahead and feel uncertain about what is coming next. In those moments, do not let fear take control. Instead, let trust lead you forward. You do not need to know every step. You only need to trust the one who does. As you continue walking, remember that your faith is something you live out daily. It is in your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your decisions. It is in how you treat others, how you respond to challenges, and how you carry yourself in both good times and difficult moments. Faith is not just something you believe. It is something you become. There's also something important you must hold on to. You are deeply loved, not because of what you do, not because of what you achieve, but simply because of who you are. God's love is not earned. It is given freely, fully, and unconditionally. No mistake you make can take that away. No failure can separate you from it. When doubt tries to enter your mind, when fear tries to take hold of your heart, remind yourself of this truth. You are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. God walks with you in every step, in every season, in every moment of your life. There will be times when you feel like your voice is small, like your actions don't matter, like your presence doesn't make a difference. But you must remember that even the smallest light can shine brightly in darkness. Your life, your faith, your love, those things matter more than you realize. As you move forward from here, carry this with you. Choose faith over fear. Choose love over anger. Choose hope over doubt. These choices may seem small in the moment, but over time, they shape your life in powerful ways. And when life becomes overwhelming, when things feel too heavy or too uncertain, come back to this simple truth: God is with you. So keep going, keep trusting, keep believing, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it doesn't make sense, because your story is still unfolding, your faith is still growing, and God is still working. Amen.